Hello, I'm Catherine Corelli. This is episode 374 of my Cat Vibe series, and today we are painting the cover art for Cool Blue Shadows and Rose Water, which is the 7th single on the Sunset album. And I'm starting with kind of a composite reference, which I've put together and printed out on a piece of photo paper. So there are like multiple people in different poses so that I get an idea of what exactly, how exactly things are supposed to look like, more or less. I had to get through this stage initially because otherwise it would have been an insurmountable task. Now, before we go any further, of course, I want to invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're watching me on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram. Don't forget to enable all of your notifications. Hit that bell notification really hard. It will help me out. And back to the painting. So this painting actually turned out to be a pretty difficult one. I was painting it right after the Sun City painting, right after the previous one. And both paintings took me a month. Like for the entirety of January, I was just on 2 paintings, which felt a little odd. And at some point I started to feel that I'm dragging a little bit on this one. There were elements that I first thought I would just improvise, like the whole back, the whole architectural setting here is all made up out of imagination. It is not painted from references. It's, the columns are kind of just whatever I wanted to paint there. And whatever that is to the left that I was trying to paint a wall there. Then I decided that I'm going to cut off the upper part of that wall because I was browsing, through some old archaeological sites, and I was kind of looking at these old walls, whatever remains of them, in the Middle East. And then I changed that eventually as well. So it wasn't like I was using strict references for that, but I was kind of improvising largely. But as far as the human figures, gosh, this was difficult. Because the man to the right, he was more or less close to the reference. The girl in the center was almost there, but I used the reference loosely and then just painted her my way anyways. And as far as the left, the man on the left, the man in my reference had no beard. He wasn't dressed. And this man is wearing a turban and he is dressed, and there are a ton of elements which are not in the reference altogether. But I had to stay true to the idea of my painting the way I wanted it to be, so, used loose references and then made them into whatever I wanted them to be. That's kind of the point. But this one took a while. I think for the most part because there are 3 figures in it, not 1. And there are all of these added elements. And plus on top of that, one of the biggest elements is the lighting, because this is morning. So I had to imagine the lighting for the scene. What would it approximately look like? And then go from there, because my composite reference picture didn't have all the interior, didn't have all the columns, didn't have all the architectural elements, and it didn't have a consistent lighting. So all of my models they had different lighting, basically. And I had to make that a one lighting for the whole scene and imagine all of this. So that wasn't easy. But it was a very exciting project. So just because it wasn't easy doesn't mean that it sucked. I've encountered some challenges which lead me to consider painting more people And I think once I'm done with this series of horse paintings that I'm going to do this spring, I think I will lean heavily into painting humans, men and women. And I kind of realized that I need to do more of this so that I really start to feel comfortable with various aspects of human anatomy, because it's one thing when I'm drawing, it's one feel, but then when I'm painting, it's a completely different feel. Yes, I'm kind of drawing at the same time too, and I kind of never stop drawing while I'm painting, throughout the painting, if you know what I mean. But there's also color, and then there is volume, and then there's lighting, and then there are just aspects of anatomy that should be accounted for. There's a lot of variables, and some things are easier and kind of intuitive, and others are not. So I think the best way to deal with this is just to paint more. And I think looking forward, this is what I'm going to be focusing on. That's the girl in the center. And the video, the original footage for this video was like 13.5 hours long. So all in all, this painting took me like almost 14 hours of paint time. A little more, actually, but around 14 hours. I tried to take with me from the previous painting the kind of impressionistic, looser feel to things. That's kind of exactly how I wanted them to be. I didn't want to get bogged down in the little details. And I'm trying to maintain that pace and that approach. Even though in a painting like this, it becomes a little harder to maintain this approach. I see we're starting to get somewhere. You see, I started to redo that thing on the left because I ended up kind of like, no, that wall was way too silly. So I just painted a building there in the distance. Because I thought that this would be just more congruent. And it would also show the morning lighting, the morning sun. With some vegetation there, like a couple of trees or something in the street out there. I thought this would just make more sense. And the shadow from the column falling on the characters. This painting had its difficulties, had its challenges, but all in all, it was actually a very enjoyable one to paint. And I'm absolutely looking forward to the next big one, which is going to be for the Reaper. In the very beginning, I thought that I would paint a fountain in the back, in that yard. I thought that I would just put a fountain there. But then, as I kept moving forward, I kept focusing more and more on the figures, and I realized that if I also put a fountain there in the center, it's just going to be way too busy. There's going to be just way too many elements, and it's just not good. There's already a lot in this painting. There are those buildings in the back, and there are 3 people here in the foreground. This tub of water, and then this other big vase or whatever you call this, with water or with ointments. With water or with ointments. And then there is that building in the back to the left. And then there is another big, huge vase. Yeah, this one. It's already a lot of elements. And so I just realized that if I keep throwing things in, keep putting them there, it's gonna look just cluttered. So for that reason, I left the courtyard empty. Even though in the song, in the lyrics go about how there are people in the courtyard and, this kind of thing. But it's not here. Not in the painting. Actually, I can't help but already wonder if any of my social media are gonna try to ban this video, or the painting itself, because of partial nudity. I don't know. I kind of find it hilarious because AI algorithms are so friggin' Puritan for some reason. It's so ridiculous. But as an artist, I feel that I should just do whatever I have to do. I'm staying true to the idea. That's the idea, that's the scene, and that's exactly how it's supposed to be. And now I'm adding some rose petals in the end. And as far as I remember, these were the last touches that I was putting on this painting. It was like the last session, probably. Because at this point I realized that if I continue going with all the little tiny details on everything, I'll just start screwing up. Here's the finished painting. There we go. Cool blue shadows and rose water. Like every other painting is gonna get eventually framed and it's gonna be available in my Etsy store. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, ciao.